So if I wanted to take part into contact tracing and get some alerts on my phone when I've been exposed to the virus, how would I do this?
So there are a bunch of different options, and you might be familiar with some of the apps that are out there and some of the frameworks that are out there. Apple and Google have been working on a framework that they're going to be launching soon that will allow apps to be built on top of a common foundation that will preserve privacy while being able to share certain details that will aid with contact tracing. But in fact, there are more than 36 different apps from various countries around the world that have been created and distributed throughout their populations in order to be able to help with contact tracing. Now, the way that these apps work varies significantly. So in some cases, we're talking about a purely opt-in mechanism that's very privacy preserving, that requires you to go through multiple steps before any personal data associated with your location would be shared with a third party, like a government or a health agency. In other cases, that sharing of data can be a lot more automated, and it can happen implicitly. So for example, in some countries, the government has actually stepped in and used telecommunications networks and used the data that's already flowing through those systems in order to be able to perform contact tracing. And this is something that notably happened in Israel a couple of months ago, for example. But for privacy reasons, Israel's Supreme Court then stepped in and said that they're going to discontinue that program. Now, the benefits and the drawbacks of those programs make the issue more complicated, because the benefits are pretty great from a public health perspective. So if you can actually get the information on the locations of everyone who is using a telecommunications network, now all of a sudden you've got the opportunity to be able to implement very effective contact tracing potentially by being able to make everyone who is in that population be part of the data that you're analyzing. But of course, the drawback associated with that is you don't want to be tracking the location of every single one of your mobile phone users in a country for any purpose, because that opens the door to a variety of different undesirable results. So what privacy advocates are most concerned about is that once a government uses that type of data for contact tracing in the context of COVID-19, they might use it for a variety of other purposes, to be able to predict where crimes are occurring, to be able to track individuals that the government wants to track for a variety of reasons. And of course, this is why privacy protecting technologies are being used in the context of contact tracing apps like what Apple and Google have created, so that the data for location sharing is very limited. So what they're doing in the case of many of these apps now is they're only using Bluetooth information as opposed to using GPS information. And there's a natural benefit to that technology because Bluetooth has a limited range. You can't use Bluetooth to be able to determine what your absolute position is from a geolocation perspective. So Bluetooth can't tell you that, and it can't tell any third party that you're located in this particular place in a city. That's what your GPS information can tell you. So what Apple and Google's framework does is it says, using just Bluetooth related signals, I'm going to look for other folks who are also using this framework, who also have Bluetooth activated. And then if one person is identified as being COVID-19 positive, then you can identify the other devices that were in proximity of that device without knowing the locations of those devices. And that's the way that you're able to then assemble a set of devices or individuals that have come into contact with that person. And so all of the different privacy preserving contact tracing mechanisms are based on similar ideas like this.